little bit of cereal, and a little bit of discussion. We're going to be talking about your first rock t-shirt. Remember the first rock t-shirt you ever got? That's what we're going to be talking about. This is not actually my first. If I had my first now, I don't even know if I would fit into it. The very first t-shirt I ever purchased for a band was Aerosmith. I think the design was called Toys in the Attic, but it was a little more expensive. I think most of the t-shirts ran $18 to $20. This one was like $25, but it was a front and a back, and it was full color. It was an attic space with a bunch of toys and other random things on it. When I got my first band t-shirt, I was 13, 14 years old, so we're talking 1993, 1994. And there weren't that many options to get a t-shirt from a band you liked back then. Today we have Hot Topics in all the malls, we have the internet, we have all sorts of other places you can go. But you only had a few options back then. You could flip open the back of certain magazines and there would be a black and white ad, and some places in different states would sell them and ship them through the mail to you. Secondly, you could go to a show, but at 13 years old, I'm not going to any shows. My parents just wouldn't take me. And third, you had the option to either find a more independent record and tape store or more independent music and instrument store. And if you go to them, they usually had the walls lined with t-shirts, or at least the smart ones did. There was one store that had records, tapes, and all the band t-shirts up on display, and that was the place you'd go. And every time we went into this place, it was like Christmas time for us. My mom, at the beginning of the school year, knew we wanted these t-shirts, and she would take us in and she would say, okay, I'm going to allow each of you to get 4 t-shirts. My brother and I would be able to go throughout the store and choose. The only thing, though, was there were 2 restrictions. Number 1, we couldn't get any t-shirt with any kind of Satan or devil thing on it. And number 2, we couldn't get any kind of t-shirt with some sort of Nazi paraphernalia on it or anything like that. Not that they had them, but there was one specific Slayer shirt that had a skull on it that had like a German-style World War II helmet, and that was like a no-go. Also, actually, a third one, she wouldn't let us buy any sort of a t-shirt that had blatant swearing on it, and I remember at the time Metallica had a shirt that was called Metal Up Your... Yeah. I remember walking around the store and it was amazing to me. You gotta imagine, this was the dawn of my getting introduced to all sorts of music. There were bands that I had no clue who they were. I'd never even heard of them. The only way I knew about them was the art that I was seeing on their t-shirts. It was kind of a really awkward way to judge bands. You couldn't go on YouTube and listen to these bands, so you didn't really have a clue who they are. Unless you went to shows, but again, I'm 13, 14, that's not happening. So, we would go around and we would look at all of the t-shirts. We'd be allowed to buy 4. Some of you would say, wow, 4 t-shirts, that's amazing, your mom's the best. These were to last us for like 2 years. Like, this was the whole school year and the whole following school year. We really, really had to take good care of these things. And I remember the other interesting thing about this. Since these were all record and tape stores or musical instrument shops, they weren't really ready, like retail ready to sell clothing. So in the particular one we went to, they were hanging them up on like the top part of the wall. So they'd have to get one of those big hooks to reach the hanger and bring it down. There wasn't a pile of shirts underneath like anywhere else you shop at today normally. The one they had was up on the wall, and if they didn't have your size, you were out of luck. Metallica was huge. Every time you went in, I would say at least 30 to 40% of the shirts on the wall were Metallica. Slayer, there was maybe 10% were Slayer t-shirts. They always had Grateful Dead and they always had Pink Floyd. That was like a whole separate section on the wall away from everything else. Aerosmith, okay, I grew up around Boston. They're going to have a lot of Aerosmith stuff, so I'd say another 5 to 10% of the wall space was occupied by Aerosmith. Well, the cereal's about done. What was your first band t-shirt? And where did you get it? Throw it in the comments. I'd love to hear about it. The second time, I can tell you that 9-inch nails was huge. And the second time was like a straight up 9-inch nails shopping spree, and I think I also got a Slayer shirt as well.